Should I use Twinmotion or Unreal Engine for my architectural project? Are you looking to create quick visualizations, or are you looking to expand on your project and turn it into an interactive experience? Today's answer is why not using both. The most important benefit is for users with programs that does not support Datasmith, like Blender, for example. So traditionally, we use our tools like 3ds Max or Revit or Rhino or any program that supports Datasmith. We have the plugin installed and we export the project. And for other programs, as I mentioned, we export the FBX file. Now, once you export your project as Datasmith file, let's open Unreal Engine. So here I have the engine and I will click on add to the project, Datasmith file import, and I will select my file. So here I have my Datasmith file. I will simply open it and select the location of where I am going to save this and click on OK. For this sample project, we will keep just the geometry since it doesn't have any materials as well. Click on import and let's quickly add our lights. I'm going to the add menu here and I'm going to lights. You should have the sun and sky enabled as a plugin, the sun position calculator. Click and add that to your level. If you've been using Unreal Engine to create and visualize your projects, you should have a library of materials and meshes and things that will help you accelerate the process of producing your projects. But in this scenario or in this map, I don't have anything. When you don't have that, you either create your materials manually inside Unreal Engine, or you use something like Fab or Quixel, Megascans, assets, or anything online where you import the textures, create the materials, and start assigning them to your project. So in this scenario, let's imagine this is a glass material. When you are creating your projects in your tool of choice and you import these projects in Unreal Engine, let's say something like the glass, we want to select all the glass elements like so, obviously not manually. So I imagine you would have your project assets organized and named probably. So you can press F2 and Ctrl C to copy the name. Then go to the outliner and paste the name. Then you would delete whatever numbers so you can quickly find that asset. So now to select all these, you can either select them manually, where you go to the first asset, hold shift and then scroll all the way down and click, or you can click on this Datasmith actor or the folder if you have a folder, then right click and you're going to find something about selecting immediate children. And the shortcut for that is Ctrl Alt D. So I'm going to click on this button or press on Ctrl Alt D and I will deselect the Datasmith file because we need only static meshes selected so we can have the ability to assign the material. Now I'm going to click and drag and I'm going to assign the material, and we want to do the same for the rest of the glass objects. And you can imagine the same on all the walls, the floors, the columns, and so on. That might take from few minutes to maybe more, depending on your experience, depending on your library, depending on the organization of your project. But in Twinmotion, it's much easier and faster to work on your projects. And not only that, but anyone can do it. So let's open Twinmotion and let's import our project. So I'm going to click on import and I will add a new file to my library here. So that's the beauty of Twinmotion. You can add all your files here in one place and they will simply appear here. So you can import geometry and so on. We will go to geometry and we will select a file. I'm going to click on open and here you can see the type of files you can import: FBX, SketchUp files, Cinema 4D files, Datasmith files, JLTF, OBJ, and so on. So keep this at the default, and I will imagine that we don't have Datasmith. We will use the FBX file instead of the Datasmith file. So imagine you're using Blender or whatever tool and you're creating your architectural project. You export that as FBX or JLTF and then you can open this. Click on open and let's keep the default settings as they are. Click on import, and in this scenario there is this message, material conflict. I will ignore it and I will click on OK, and here we are. So if you're used to using Unreal Engine, you can click on the gear icon here and switch the navigation presets from Twinmotion to Unreal Engine or whatever program you use. So the first thing we did in Unreal Engine is assigning the glass material, and imagine spending more time creating an accurate glass material. So that will take time. However, in Twinmotion, thanks to the library here on the left, we already have materials. So I'm going to click on materials. I will click on glass. And let's say I want to assign this nice clear glass material. Simply click and drag and find the surface or the glass object that you want to assign this on and release your mouse. It will apply on all objects that has the same material, which is in this scenario glass material. If you click on materials here, you will see all the materials that were imported with your project. Depending on how you organize your project in your tools of choice, you will see the names of the materials and so on. So let's go now to the stones section, for example. Stacked stone, this looks fine. I will click and apply this here. And let's say I like it. Maybe the scale is too low. Here you have rotation, scale, and few other settings for every material you assign. And notice when you also assign a material here, on your project, it will also be added on the materials here as well. So I'm going to set the scale here to something like 6. And let's say this is nice. We want to assign some metallic material on the structure here. So let's go to materials and let's go to metal. And let's say the matte chrome should be fine. So I'm going to click and drag and assign this here. Beautiful. Now, let's say we want to assign something on the floor, on the walls, on the doors. So let's do that as well. Let's click on materials. Let's go to the floors, something like the concrete here. Let's find something we like for the floor. Let's say for the first floor, I'm going to use this soft concrete. So I'm going to click and drag and assign this here. And if you're not happy with the scale, in this case, it's very repetitive, we can change the scale. So I'm going to set this to something like 10. For the walls, let's go to materials and let's go to wall coverings, and let's say this plaster coating. I'm going to click and drag and assign this on this wall object, and this will assign, as we said, on all wall objects that has this same material. We also have this concrete material on these columns. Let's say this is something you want, or no, this is something you don't want. So let's press Ctrl Z a couple of times and I will go again to my concrete section, and let's say this polished concrete or whatever we chose earlier. I will click here first to change the mode from replacing a material to applying to an object. So click and hold your left mouse button and change this from replace material to apply to object. If you release your mouse, it will select it for you. Now let's select this polished concrete and assign it here. And again, we can change the scale if you want. So that's it. Now I will switch this back to replace material and I will go back to my wall coverings, and let's say I'm going to set this plaster coating on my wall objects. It will simply work. You can change the scale, and let's say another plaster coating on these different type of walls. We can also do that. Let's say on these specific columns or these specific walls, and instead of plaster coating, I want to set this to marble and granite. So I'm going to click here and let's find something we like and let's assign that. So this noisy marble 2A, I'm going to click and assign here and increase the scale. So you can click on ambience, and since Twinmotion is built using Unreal Engine, so that's another reason maybe you want to learn Unreal Engine, is that you can build things like Twinmotion with it. Let's click on render and let's switch the global illumination from standard to Lumen, and this will give us now the beautiful lighting of Lumen as well as the reflections. So that's very nice and very fast. Now that's all about materials, but there is more. We have objects, we have rotation, and we have some other type of objects like vehicles, characters, and so on. So objects, you can go to home, living room, sofas. You have these basic elements if you want to replace any block outs of sofas. So let's delete this and simply replace them with this and this if you want. And if you hold shift, by the way, and click, you can create a duplicate of a mesh. And let's say you want to add some trees, you can also do that. So now let's go back to the library. Let's go to vegetation, click on trees and click on this tree or this tree, any tree you like, and you can add it. So now let's say this tree, we can add a couple here and there. Hover your mouse here, press on shift to create some duplicates. You can rotate this, and there are tools that can help you populate your scene with objects. So here if you go to populate, we have place, path and urban. Let's start with place. we have also multiple modes: area, spacing, scatter, paint, and so on. So let's say paint, you can select the object that you want to paint. So let's say the Indian sandwood here, and we can now paint. We can change the diameter of the brush, and once you're happy with the paint area, if you want to increase or decrease the density, you can click on the actor you've added and change its density to high value or lower value, like so. Let's keep going. Here in this area in the parking lot, you can go to the vehicles and you can go to cars, and you can basically add the cars you want to add. So let's just put it in a nicer way, and let's not use these lines. Here we can select one of these plaster materials and assign it on these white lines. Select the sedan, rotate it, hold shift, and create a duplicate. So let's say we want to add some vegetation to this area. We can go to vegetation, we can go to bushes, and I'm going to populate as well. I will click on spacing, and I will click on this bush base too. I will add this here, and I will click on these lines to add some splines here. And when you're happy, you can right click to cancel the creation of the line, and here we have some curve happening. You can change that to be more linear or more curvy. We can do that. You can change the count, increase or decrease, and there are other settings you can change as well. For example, the rotation offset and the random rotation, the scale offset and the random scale. And as you can see, with a couple of clicks, we added these vegetation assets here. So you can imagine what if you spend 1 hour or 2 hours on your project here, how it will come to life. So I'm going to open a scene that I spent like 30 minutes on in one of our live streams. Once you're happy, you can go now to File, and you can export your scene to a Datasmith file. I'm going to go with standard and set the location of your Datasmith file. Now the location of the Datasmith file, it must be on your root folder of your Unreal Engine project. So you cannot save this randomly anywhere. You must find and locate your Unreal Engine project, open it, find the root folder, and give this file a name. So let's say Tech School, and click on save, and give it from few seconds to few minutes depending on the scale of your project, and that will export the scene for you. So I really like this because we can use Twinmotion as a Datasmith file exporter. We can get files from different sources, from different people, import all of them in one scene like here, and export them as a Datasmith file to our Unreal project. So here we are doing the best of both worlds. We're using Twinmotion because it's fast and it has a nice library of materials and assets that we can use in our projects. And then in Unreal Engine, if we want to extend on the functionality of our projects, or we want more advanced features, we can easily export our projects from Twinmotion to Unreal Engine. So once the export is finished, we can go back now to Unreal Engine. Now let's open our level, and let's open the Datasmith file importer. Now let's click on add Datasmith file import, and let's select our file. So here I have my file. I will click on Tech School, open it, select a location to save this. So I'm going to find my project and I click on OK. And in this scenario, I want to enable the materials and textures. Now there are things that won't export with your Datasmith files from Twinmotion, and I hope this can change in the future. One of these things is the light setup. One of these things as well is the animated characters. So look at this guy, he's so cute, but unfortunately he won't be exported to Unreal. So let's give it its time. Maybe we can make some coffee or drink some water, and once it finishes we will not see anything because we are still in the dark side. So we can now create our light setup. I'm going to select the directional light, and I'm going to set the intensity from 75,000 lumens to just 10 lumens, because every time we hit play later, we will be bombarded with this nuclear sun intensity. So here we have the project we imported. As you can see, we have all the materials, all the objects. Some vegetations will look fine and some other vegetations will look interesting. So what you can do here, the invalid light map settings, you can either fix it from editing the object properties from here, which is I'm not gonna do now, because the easier fix is to simply close the engine, save everything, and open the engine again. So let's do that. Here we loaded the project again. As you can see, we don't have the invalid light map error on our meshes, and if you get close to the meshes, they look fine. Now if you go far, we are going to switch, or the engine is going to switch the level of detail for us. So here in any mesh, you have multiple level of detail. So if I select the mesh and press Ctrl E, it will open the static mesh editor for us. And once you open the editor, you can see on the top left corner LOD. We have 1. If you get very close, you have 0. And if you get further and further, you will see different LODs. So let's say LOD 3. Here you can see we have only 36 triangles. If you get near where we have LOD 2, we have 85,000 triangles. So we either need the material of LOD 3 or we need to get rid of LOD 3. Let's go to where we have the LOD settings. So here LOD settings, number of LODs, let's set this from 4 to 3. And let's click on apply settings, and this will get rid of the 4th LOD level we have, which is the lowest. So now we have LOD 2, then LOD 1 and LOD 0 with the highest quality. Now once you do that, you can save this. These here are all have the same name, so if you select them, you can select all the trees that are similar to each other. Then you can press on isolate, so that will make our life easier. So right click, visibility, show only selected, and I have a custom shortcut for this. So I usually press my shortcut and I switch to a mode where we have something like unlet. I would select any of these static meshes because we cannot have a static mesh and an actor selected. This will get rid of the static mesh and material settings we have. So I will press on a static mesh only, then I will select all similar, and the shortcut for that is Ctrl Shift A. This will select all the trees for us, all the static meshes for us, and I will deselect this tree, and here I can assign the static mesh. So I'm going to click on this tree, the one we've edited. I press Ctrl B to locate it in my content browser, and you can press Ctrl Z to undo your selection, or again select the meshes and then deselect this, and now we can replace the static mesh. Now I'm going to press on my custom shortcut to make everything visible again. I will select this actor now, and here it says hierarchical instanced static mesh, and I will also replace the mesh to my mesh and for anything that is similar. So this is different type of tree, but for now I'm going to have the same tree as well. And let's take a look now. Things are looking better, that's for sure. So this workflow is not perfect, but it's still way much faster than starting our projects 100% in Unreal Engine and keeping things in Unreal. I like the fact that we can use Twinmotion, then export to Unreal Engine. I really look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback on this workflow once you try it with your projects. Here, we don't see Mr. Felix, the cat, but we see the other humans we imported to the project, so you can easily populate your project with the humans and also export them to Unreal Engine. This will save you so much time. This beautiful scene here is the Snowdon sample project from Revit as well. I will leave a link for you in the description to download this. So I exported this scene to Unreal Engine to test the exporter, and as I said, I was pretty impressed with it. For the past 7 months, something else I have been doing is researching Blueprint and creating a comprehensive Blueprint course with an Unreal Engine template that we can import in our architectural projects, so we can turn these projects into interactive experiences. So now if I click on play, nothing is going to happen. But if I click on my world settings here and I change the game mode from none to the game mode AEC, so now if I click on play, we will spawn with the first person character. Give it a few seconds to calculate the light, and there we go. I can move around, I can zoom in, zoom out pretty nicely, and I can also move faster if I want. Now there is a taskbar I've programmed with many different options on it. For example, I can take screenshots, or I can switch the rendering mode to lighting mode. So here I'm going to click on lighting mode. And so here we have the compass. On my view modes, I can switch. We have the third person character, which is the meta-human, and we have the drone mode that allow us to fly around our projects. And we have the top-down mode, which is nice for iBird view, top-down views. and I can always switch back to my first person mode. Now, if I click on the teleport panel here, it's empty because we need to set it up. So let's quickly do that. I'm going to press Ctrl space to locate my project. I go to Blueprint, Base Blueprints, and I will go to the teleport system. I will need to add the teleport manager first because we need to add multiple teleportation points, and then I'm going to add a couple of teleportation points. So let's say this is the first point, this here is the second point, and notice how both have a teleport list, and here it says ground floor, but you can add as many lists as you want. So let me show you first how that looks like. Now when I click on play, I click on teleport, you will see that we have now under a ground floor list 2 teleportation points. I can click on point 1, I can click on the entrance, and that will teleport us. If I decide to add more teleportation points, we can do that. Let's make a copy or add one here, and let's say for this teleportation point I'm going to call it cafe, and instead of ground floor I'm going to add a new name for my list. So I'm going to click here on the enumerator and add something like cafe, for example. Now if I select this list here and I select the new item we've added, which is a cafe, and I click on play, I can now open my teleport point, and as you can see we have cafe as a new list, and this will be added dynamically. So if I click on cafe or point 1, we can teleport between these points. This is still work in progress, but I think I am nearing the end point of a first release. So now if I click on play in my demo level, I can click on customize, and anything that's customizable, we're gonna see an icon around it. For example, we have materials customizer, and we have materials and meshes customizer. So here I can get near it, and I can click on swap meshes to swap my meshes, and as you can see, these icons here are generated with the studio setup, and I recently also made how to create your own light rig tutorial that I shared on YouTube, and with the exact same process I've created these thumbnails. So if you want to learn more about this template, this blueprint course, check out the links in the description as well, where I dive much deeper into its features, functions, and its future as well. My goal is to make learning Unreal Engine easier, is to make the ability of turning our projects into interactive experiences also easier. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want any specific tutorials, let me know in the comments. I hope you found today's lesson useful. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Take care.